Hello, this is Brett from Survival Comms. Baofeng Radio. I've never owned a Baofeng radio before. I've played with them before, but never owned one. After watching SOS, did a little thing for his Boss Bug Out bag with one of these things, and I saw how inexpensive it is and all the accessories it came with. I said, you know what, it's worth it to get one. What we're going to do is we're just going to go over the radio itself and put it on some test equipment and see how it performs. And we're actually going to conduct head-to-head testing of this radio versus a radio from the Big 3, which is another entry-level radio. It's quite a bit more money. The ICOM IC-T70A, which is a dual-band amateur radio. We'll blow through the paperwork real quick here. The model being tested here is the Baofeng GT-3 Mark II. It covers in VHF 136 to 174 megahertz, full transmit and receive over that range. And it covers 400 to 520 megahertz, full coverage over that range, transmit and receive. Power output is listed as being greater than 4 watts, and on low power, a power output of greater than 1 watt, and it's set to provide such power output at 1.4 amps of current draw. The radio also features 65 to 108 megahertz broadcast band FM audio, and the radio is rated to provide deviation for wide and narrow band channels of 5 kilohertz and 2.5 kilohertz. The battery is a 7.4 volt battery rated at 1,800 milliamp hours, and it uses lithium ion cells. The radio features selective signaling, CTCSS and DCS, and it has 128 memories. The rate of the radio is 8 ounces. The receive sensitivity is listed as being 0.2 microvolts at 12 dB synad. The audio is rated as being 1,000 milliwatts of audio. The adjacent channel selectivity is rated as being 65, 60 dB, which is pretty consistent, just like this spurious emissions being 60 dB as well. The price of this radio with accessories, rounded up, of course, is $40. So you can see that it is quite a value. And the software, they have free factory software. They also have a program called Chirp. It's a multi-platform programming software that also works with this radio. And the PC cable that I used for testing is manufactured by BTEC, and its part number is PC03, and it costs $20.46. And I did have to do a little bit of plastic surgery to it to get it to seat completely into the radio based upon the housing configuration. Well, when you purchase one of these, you definitely get a lot of accessories. You do really get a lot of bang for your buck. Like I said, for the purchase price of this particular one here, which was like $37, it came with all of these accessories. And it comes with a speaker microphone, which isn't a fantastic high-quality speaker microphone, but it's one that works. It's functional. You get an earpiece. Again, it's not a super high-quality one, but it's functional. You get a charger. Now, this is not a rapid charger. This is, as a matter of fact, this is the only way you can charge this radio because there is no external DC port. So it's just a conventional standard rate charger. It uses a 10-volt input, and it comes with your AC adapter. And you also have a 12 to 10-volt car adapter right here, which you can plug into that. Our other radio is the ICOM IC-T70A, which covers 136 to 174 megahertz on receive, 144 to 148 megahertz on transmit, and in UHF covers 400 to 479 megahertz receive, and 420 to 450 megahertz transmit. And I will be doing a frequency expansion video on this. It's not a difficult modification. The spurious emissions are less than 60 dB. This radio features a tri-power setting, which is a high of 5, a medium of 2.5 watts, and a low power of half a watt. And at high power, the radio will deliver its power output at 1.7 amps of current draw. The radio is also capable of 5 kilohertz and 2.5 kilohertz of deviation for 25 and 12.5 kilohertz channel spacing. The battery supplied is a 7.4 volt 1900 milliamp hour battery pack with lithium ion cells, and it has an external DC connector on the side of the radio where you can power the radio, and it will accept power input voltages of 10 to 16. Weight of the portable radio is 13.4 ounces. The radio features full selective signaling, CT-CSS, DCS, features 302 memories, has 700 milliwatts of audio, and adjacent channel selectivity of greater than 60 dB. Receive sensitivity is listed as 0.18 microvolts at 12 dB SYNAD, and the radio is IP54 mil standard 810, rated against moisture and dust intrusion, and that makes it a water resistant radio and not a waterproof radio. Price of the radio is $199.95, and that's as the tested configuration, which I'll go over in a second. And factory software is a package. It's $49.95, and you can also use Chirp to program this radio if so desired. A factory programming cable is $60.95, and there are less expensive variants out there. One that I can attest to that works is the Valley Enterprises, which is $29.95. With the ICOM offering, they don't they don't offer you a whole lot of accessories in your purchase price. You do. This is an HD model, which this one here came with the lithium-ion battery. They normally come with a nickel metal hydride battery. So it comes with this rapid charger, which is actually a very nice rapid charger. And you get your power supply for such, and you also get the lithium-ion battery, which is a 1900 milliamp hour battery pack, which we'll remove this from here. You can see that right here. Now, the ICOM offering also has a DC plug on the side of it, so you have the ability to power this off of 10 to 16 volts DC, and it will also recharge the battery pack. However, the instructions say that it will not recharge the lithium-ion pack. It'll only recharge a nickel metal hydride pack, which was not included with the HD model, so your mileage may vary as far as that goes. Go over build quality. The Baofeng is constructed of plastic on the outside, and you can see that it's got a considerable amount of give in whatever plastic they chose to use for the construction of this, and then has these colored inserts into it, and you can see that your plug here cover just snaps in, and you can definitely see how you would get moisture inside of that, and moisture inside of around these two connection points there. It would probably have to be a considerable amount of moisture to cause a problem. And the same thing around the control buttons on the side. The ICOM definitely has better build quality. The material has far less give to it, and you can look at it that it's a more structurally sound, almost like a commercial radio. And you can see that the plug here actually covers both of the plugs, so that definitely gives it a better chance of resisting the ingress of moisture. And you can see this also has an external DC jack, which the Baofeng lacks, which is a nice thing to have to be able to power it from a vehicle. Turning both radios over, you can see that they're both feature a belt clip. The belt clip on the Baofeng is attached to the radio chassis itself, and on the ICOM it's attached to the battery. The benefit of this is you only need one belt clip on this. With every battery pack you buy, you need to ensure it has a belt clip if you desire to use that as a carrying method. Battery retention on the Baofeng has a small spring-loaded catch here, and we can look at the battery itself, and there is your battery retention. It is based upon this small piece of plastic here and these two small tabs down here. So your battery retention isn't quite as positive, and you can see that if you did lose that, at the tabs at the bottom there, that it would not hold it in place. It would separate at some point. Battery connections on the Baofeng are through 2 sets of pogo pins right here. And the heat sinking in the Baofeng, there's not a lot of metal in here. So, and also, you know, the metal plays an important part in the antenna also, because it's part of the ground plane. So you can see that this doesn't really have a lot of heat sinking in there. So at high power, your final output transistors are going to have a hard time dissipating the heat generated. You can see our ICOM battery here. It's retained with a latch. There's a gasket around the perimeter of the battery. Battery has 2 contacts on top and a sensor contact here, which I've got a feeling the sensor contact that's right here also may have something to do with the inability of this battery pack, the lithium ion, to be charged by the 12-volt plug inside of it. And these are your 2 contacts for powering the radio. And you can see there's considerably more metal in the back plane of this radio, and this gives it a more efficient heat sink, which is extremely important in a portable radio, especially if you're running higher power. 2 tabs interface with the back of the chassis. If it goes down, you can see it's fairly solid even without the latch on there, so you are good to go. Overall, control layout's pretty much a matter of personal preference. The Baofeng just has a volume control on and off on top, and it has a color display. The display, it will receive the V and the UHF, or have both of those on there, where you can just step between those 2 in a VFO mode, which is nice. The ICOM, turn it on, has a soft key, and the upper knob works as a channel selector or VFO, and your concentric switch right here controls itself as not only a selection for the menu, but also as a volume control. The display is simple. They both support alphanumeric characters. There's a battery indicator on here, and it indicates if you're wide, narrow, or high or low power. High or low power is toggled very easily in the ICOM, whereas on the Baofeng, if you don't have it in memory, you end up having to step through a menu to get to it. The Baofeng, to step through its VFO, you have to use your buttons, but both radios feature direct frequency entry. Just like such, which is nice. Manual quality, the Baofeng's manual is basically a translation. You can see that it's a multi-language format, and it's very, very small. The ICOM manual is superior. This is an English-only manual, and you can see how much more concise the instructions are. Antenna build quality. This is your Baofeng antenna, the split antenna, and it's a rat tail, which is nice and flexible. It's rigid at the base of it. The ICOM is a rubber overmolded antenna. It's not as flexible on the top, and the non-flexible section is larger than the Baofeng. In testing both antennas, I didn't particularly find a huge amount of difference, and neither one was a stellar performer. The ICOM favors VHF, and the one on the Baofeng seems to favor UHF. So it's pretty much a wash between which one's better. I'm just going to briefly explain receiver testing here. What you have here is you have a signal generator, and the signal generator is generating signal of 446 megahertz. The level of signal that's being sent to the radio right now is 0.123 microvolts. SYNAD of 12 dB is what we're looking for. And this is what that signal sounds like. So what we're doing is we're comparing between the two radios what level of RF is required to be sent to the radio to get us 12 dB of SYNAD, and comparing those numbers, and that gives us an idea of receiver sensitivity. Okay, I'm going to briefly explain to you the transmitter test and how we're going to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to take our transmitter, we're going to feed the RF in to our RF input, and we're going to use the audio generator, and the audio generator output here is going to feed a signal, an audio signal, into the mic port of the radio. And this allows us to modulate the radio at a specific level, and doing such will display the deviation. Now in wide FM we want to have less than 5 kilohertz of deviation, and in narrow band FM we want less than 2.5 kilohertz of deviation. So we'll do 2 tests per band per radio to show us our transmitter performance. At the top is our transmitter frequency, and that's going to show us our frequency error. And then we're going to see our RF output here. And then our deviation will be displayed right here, and also right here where it says level. Okay, now we're going to test the spurious emissions of both of the portable radios. Now this is not laboratory grade equipment. I'm using an SDR, and I'm using the program Spectrum, and I have my portable and hooked to an RF cable running into a T. It's terminated with a dummy load. There's a minus 30 dB sample port that I have in another variable attenuator in case I had to cut the power back somewhat, and that was not the case for either radio. And we'll get our spectrum analysis on the screen. And here is our ICOM VHF. See our principal, and you can see we're pretty doggone clean here. Here's our Baofeng at VHF. Harmonics. There. And this is our ICOM at UHF. Looking good. Get your first harmonic right there. And at UHF with the Baofeng. Principal. And there's our first harmonic right there. So we have a little more harmonics coming out of the Baofeng than the ICOM. You can see that the Baofeng, without an antenna, is picking up a strong signal in through the chassis itself. The ICOM, even with its displayed superior receiver, is without an antenna, is not allowing that same station to come through. Okay, this time I'm going to go ahead and do my comparison between the two thus far. There is another part to this video where we actually do some more in-depth testing and field type environments and battery life, etc., etc. We'll start out with just out of the box. The price, the Baofeng, definitely has a clear advantage. I mean, the price of the Baofeng being $35 to $40 for that particular radio is very inexpensive, and that's its strength, is its lack of expense. The ICOM, I've given it a 2. You may think that $200 is expensive for a radio, but go buy a Part 90 radio and see how much money you spend on that compared to the ICOM. So just to give you some idea. Accessory-wise, the Baofeng, definitely, I mean, it comes with just about everything soup to nuts. The ICOM is limited. It basically comes with a charger in this particular instance here. So it's been scored correspondingly. Programming equipment, same thing. Baofeng software is essentially free. The factory software is free. Chirp is free. The cable costs less than $30. The ICOM, the only reason I even gave it a 3 is because it can use the Chirp software. The cables are less than $30. However, again, if you think the programming software, the factory software for the ICOM is expensive, go buy a Part 90 radio and then go buy software from the manufacturer, and you'll find out just how expensive that can be. Receive frequency range. The Baofeng, really good. Incorporating the FM broadcast band definitely gave it a clear advantage. Transmit frequency range, the Baofeng has the advantage out of the box. It pretty much covers the entire VNUHF band. The ICOM can cover it with a fairly simple hardware modification, but again, it doesn't come with that out of the box, and it's scored correspondingly. Build quality. The Baofeng honestly feels like a toy. It's not the most robust feeling radio. The lightweight is nice, but you throw it in a cargo pocket, you almost forget you have it there. But then again, it's not of a very robust construction, whereas the ICOM almost feels like a commercial radio. And that being the case, its build quality is superior. Battery retention, the Baofeng radio uses that one little spring-loaded latch and those little tabs at the base of it. The ICOM has a more substantial solution. Heat sinking. The Baofeng does not have a adequate heat sink for running the power output it runs, in my opinion, whereas the ICOM has the level of heat sinking commensurate with the power output of the radio. Accessory connection. Both radios use a 3.5 and a 2.5 millimeter plug for an accessory connection and programming connector. And in the Baofeng example, you can actually move the connector around by applying force to it, which just shows that it's not a very robust connection, whereas the ICOM is a much more robust connection in the housing and in the main circuit board itself. And the sealing is superior in the ICOM variant. External DC input. The Baofeng has none whatsoever. The ICOM has one. Being that most amateur radios do have that, having that ability to power and perhaps charge the radio through an external DC input jack in the side of the radio is a huge advantage. So the scores have been altered commensurately. Operation manual. The Baofeng's operation manual is very limited. The ICOM's manual is much more concise and informative, in my opinion. Belt clip. The belt clip in the ICOM example has a slight advantage in durability over the Baofeng example. The displays of both of the radios are fine. The Baofeng has colors and, on receive and transmit and everything, which is a novelty more than anything else, in my opinion. And the receive signal strength indication on the Baofeng is lacking as opposed to the ICOM. So I've given the ICOM the edge in that regard. Control layout. The control layout in the Baofeng is adequate. but the ICOM having the single touch buttons for manipulating power output and tone and shift definitely gives it the advantage. Both radios feature direct frequency entry, which in a front programmable radio is extremely handy. So both of them have been scored equally. VFO, the Baofeng uses an up and down arrow, and the ICOM uses a knob. I find the knob to be a lot more user-friendly than the up and down buttons in a VFO mode. Provided antenna quality, both antennas were equally poor in my testing, and they've been scored as such. So at the bottom here, you'll see that our ICOM variant is 11 points above our Baofeng radio. In our receiver sensitivity testing, the ICOM receiver was more sensitive than the Baofeng receiver in both VHF and UHF, and it's been scored as such. Transmit power, I've avoided the radio's equal performance marks on the power output. There wasn't much of a difference between the two of them. I think the ICOM had slightly higher power output, but of course it had a greater current consumption. In regards to FM deviation, wide narrowband, and frequency error, I didn't see any problems with either particular radio, and they all perform within specifications. Spurious emissions. The Baofeng radio definitely threw more harmonics than the ICOM variant in this example, and I've awarded them points as such. RF shielding, it's obvious through just that simple demonstration that I gave earlier that the shielding in the Baofeng falls short of the shielding in the ICOM variant, and points have been awarded as such. And this puts our testing here with the ICOM 8 points above the Baofeng. And this concludes part 1. There will be a part 2. I hope this helps. This is Brett from Survival Comms. Till next time.